Yeah, David Dread of Steel Pulse, and I'm saying hail to Lion Voice because it's time that the lion have its voice, have its own story. Says I'm stepping out here, hear me now. Yeah, the lion's voice. Raw.
Well, from to us a son was born and a child was given.
I want to ask you a question. Have you got your book? Haile Selassie I, Ethiopia, Volume 1, The Rise of the Priest Warrior King. I've read the book in its entirety, and I must say it's very inspirational, very informative, and very historical, right?
Them call him Haile Tafari. When he was born, rain fall from the sky. Them call him Haile Tafari. When he was grown in airplanes he fly. They call him Haile Tafari. Lion break the chain, beat not, don't cry. Them call him Haile Tafari. Read the Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Then born near the city of Harar, the inspiration for Bob Marley's guitar. People crowd him like some big superstar. It no matter if England.
So that is basically the backdrop. So within that, by the time I finished, I did my thesis and so on in 75, and then the whole trade union movement was exploring, and I also know by 78, 79, then the Grenada Revolution took place, and I volunteered and went to Grenada like a week, 10 days after the Grenada Revolution to work and to give service in Grenada with the New Jewel movement under Maurice Bishop and my close brethren who was the Minister of Education at that time, George Louison, who is now deceased as well. And so when I went to Grenada, before I went to Grenada, I was also a member of the student of what they called the NUF, which was a younger people who broke out from National Joint Action Committee, the Black Power organization, and was taking a more militant role, and now looking at not just Black Power, but looking at the question of Black Power growing into scientific socialism and so on. So from that perspective, they developed. I was not one of the guerrillas fighting in the hills, but I was one of those who was helping in terms of giving strategic and tactical, and reading and studying and, visiting our comrades who were arrested and so on in the prison and studying and so on. So when I went to Grenada in 1979, in March 1979, I was given we had a printing press. So I took that to Grenada and I presented that on behalf of the National Union of Freedom Fighters from Trinidad to the New Jewel movement and the government of Grenada. So so Maurice and I, we were very close.
You're talking about Maurice Bishop.
Yes,
So to talk to us, for those who are not aware, because we have some young people in the audience, who was Maurice Bishop? This is a figure that lives in the annals of Caribbean history, taken out unfortunately by the United States government. But talk to us, who was Maurice Bishop?
Well, Maurice Bishop
was important.
Maurice Bishop to me was a beautiful comrade, beautiful brother. I would say like my senior brother. And so he was an attorney, studied in London, in England, and at London University. And he returned to Grenada back around 1972-73. And he later on formed the New Jewel movement. And that movement, that was another political party. His father was killed. His father, Rupert Bishop, was killed by the then Eric Gary political party. Eric Gary was the one who brought in Grenada into so-called flag independence. But he was very brutal. He had a similar kind of tactics as Papa Doc from Haiti.
Yeah.
So he would brutalize anybody who against his how he had entrenched himself into the political field in Grenada. and Maurice Bishop and them, they felt and his comrades, they felt the brunt of his anger and so on. And so he, Maurice, along with his comrades and along with the people in the community, especially Rastafari, because one of the brethren who was there initially on the night before the revolution, was one of our comrades we know, one of our brothers we know, Prince Nanan.
Okay.
Right, Prince Nanan was a vital figure there, and as a Rastaman.
And this is key. Stick a pin. This is key because the revolutionary side of Rastafari that story is not really told. We hear about the One Love side and the reggae music side, but we don't really hear about how Rastafari was active in the Black Power movement in the 70s. I didn't realize that Rastafari was so active in the Grenada Revolution. So the guy is educating I and I right now. Ras Sekou, continue.
Yes. So in Grenada, you had so one of the brothers in Grenada that Maurice and them call up on was Ras Nana, and he was a trained martial artist, trained under a brethren of mine, Tayo, who I published later on. But he was trained under Tayo, using the African style of martial arts, and so we were all trained with Nana in Grenada, in River Road, where Nana lived. But Nana also, being a Rastafari, and he was very much, a very stringent Rastafari. His alliance with Bishop and so on didn't last a whole long time, because sometimes I think we put certain things in front and not understand that because in Grenada no one was fighting against herb, right? Especially if you're not trying to smuggle herb outside of the country, right? And so there was no problem with people smoking herb, because I tell you, the Radio Free Grenada, one of the things that it pushed was conscious music all day long, whether it was conscious reggae or whether it was conscious calypso or kaiso, right? So these are the kind of things that was taking place at the time. But Rastafari had a great influence, because I was part of the militia in one at Camp Blunt, which was right next to the market, and most of the brethren in that militia, not all, but most of the brethren in the militia was Rastafari brethren. So, and we will go and we'll go and give our service in the night, and sometimes during the day, parade the places like of St. George's and so on, to make sure there's nobody infiltrating and so on. So that was what some of the things responsibility, besides training and teaching young people, old and young, in terms of how to read and write, because literacy was a problem. And
so there was a literacy program that came with this revolution.
Yeah, man, a strong literacy program, a strong educational program, a strong program in terms of canon. We call it, before the Grenada Revolution, a lot of things like mango and tambourine and nutmeg and so on was just discarded. When the New Jewel movement came with and the People Revolution government came in, these things now started to be canned and so on. So there was, Grenada have a lot of have some cocoa. Not a big island, it's about 90 miles and square miles. But the mere fact that it was making moves in terms of how to harness certain things now, and get away from the neo-colonialists. So that was one of the great things of being in Grenada. I stayed in Grenada, I helped to organize the first anniversary of the revolution, when we helped bring in people like Peter Tosh, and so on. I brought in the whole Trinidad delegation. It was involving Sister Intu Springer, a whole section of people from NJAC, a whole section Brother Resistance, Black Stalin, Brother Valentino. All these people I helped to bring it in, because I was in charge of that bringing, the coordinating the cultural as a cultural ambassador to make sure that all these people came for the first year of the anniversary of the revolution, which was March 13, 1980.
So how long did the revolution last before it was ended?
The revolution lasted until 1994.
So how
October
long in
1994.
total? How many years are we talking
So
about?
we're talking about 5 years.
5 years. So
5 years before
Grenada was a black power paradise for that 5 years.
Well, it was an area whereby you find people who come in there. Stokely Carmichael was there. Different people from all different the Caribbean and North America will come there. Walter Rodney came there. All came there to give, to help and to give advice and so on. People, the first anniversary of the revolution, you had people like Samora Machel and other people who came in from Africa and so on. So it was very much Pan-African friendly and supportive of the African struggle. So until there was different differences within the party, the political bureau and the central committee. One named Bernard Cord, who I know, he was leading a fraction that wanted to share political power because they find out that Maurice Bishop was too much too popular with the people, so they wanted to share what you would call they have a rotating chairmanship and so on. And within that, they had made a plan to kind of to what I would say to assassinate Maurice Bishop. But he came in initially before the time, and so that plot it couldn't work. But then they eventually took over the party, and that is when Maurice Bishop's a group of people now released him, freed him up, some of his supporters, and then I think the mistake made was going to Fort Rupert, which was named after his father, and then I think they just made a decision to assassinate a whole lot of them.
Wow.
But the last time I saw Bishop, was I did security for him. He had just coming in from the Caribbean Heads Up Conference, and he asked me. I was in Trinidad then, and he asked me to handle security on his behalf. And he did a talk at the Transport Workers Union, and so he asked me when I was coming back to Grenada. I just lost my father then, July of 1980, but I told him I would soon be back there. But before I could get the return is when the whole thing went down in
the U.S. invasion
of 1990.
What was the economic like for the regular people in Grenada during Maurice Bishop? Was there improvement? What did the economy collapse? Let's have an honest.
No, I would tell you straight up. There was a much improved standard of living in Grenada.
Okay.
From what it was, because here it is now. You can now sell your things like your tambron and so on now, instead of having it waste on the ground, right? Nationalization was taking place in terms of big plantations and so on, right? So workers are now peasants were now able to get land for themselves, where there's a couple of acres of land for themselves, where they could now grow food, rather than having to work for the big planter class there and so on. So people will be becoming more nationalistic. People were loving Grenada more, and people wanted to see the masses of people love what was taking place because it was pro people. There are people who probably figure, it might have been pro Cuba and that kind of stuff, but being pro Cuba is not anti people, because the Cuban people a lot of students were able to get scholarships.
Yes.
to go to Cuba to study, and you didn't have to, getting to go to Cuba doesn't mean to say you have to be follow the line as in that direction, but you're going to go and get your education, whether it's as a veterinarian or whatever aspect of medicine or whatever area of work you want to go and study, but. I saw a great improvement because I was one who was in Grenada before the Grenada Revolution as a cultural worker. I used to perform rapso, which was similar to dub poetry, and I was in Grenada like earlier on, somewhere back in 78 or something like that, or 77. So so Grenada, I saw much improvement. The people had a more collectiveness. People, had a more Caribbean fervor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think that the relationship with Cuba is what caused Ronald Reagan to invade Cuba?
Well, I think
what was the reason?
The reason why Ronald Reagan used the vision within the New Jewel movement, the mistake they made when you call within the New Jewel movement, the section of that was led by Bernard Cord, and at the time they went from extreme left to extreme right.
Okay.
Right, and you see that's why we had to be careful with how we look at the thing. So they went from extreme left, and being extreme left mean they're therefore now once you kill Maurice Bishop, who was a popular figure for them of Grenada, he was a popular people. Everybody loved Grenada, loved Maurice Bishop, whether you agree with the political system or not, right? Because it was not a socialist revolution, it was a people's democratic revolution. Okay. Right? It was a revolution for democracy. It was a revolution to improve the people, the people standard of living, and so on. So what you had, so once people now learning about their history as the African root, because Grenada is a strong black country, a strong African population, right, of black people. So here it is that people now learning more about their history, people more looking to understand, and Grenada was getting respect from all over the Caribbean, whether you're from Dominica. The first year of the revolution, Miguel, a whole lot of us was inside of Grenada, right? Miguel, Vivian, Desmond had just Maurice had helped fight, was a part of the team, a legal team that fought for Cabinda in Dominica. So you had in the first anniversary revolution, you had a whole lot of all of us were in there. Shango Baku, Miguel.
Big up Ras Shango. Big up
Ras Shango Baku from England, who live in England.
Yes. I have an interview scheduled with Ras Miguel too. So
Ras Miguel, yes. Right? All of us was in Grenada at the time, for the first anniversary of the revolution. I was already there from '79, but they all came in for the first, because everybody who was progressive, Rastafari, were gravitating towards. So we had differences in terms of what you want the Rastafari community to push, or been pushed. But one of the things that sometimes I think we was pushing, that some people were figuring, cannabis should be legalized, but cannabis was legal because nobody was really disturbing anybody for smoking cannabis. But just because of international laws, you can't have people smuggling cannabis into America, because America and so on already looking for a way how to shut you down. So these are things you had to be tactical about how you go about certain things. So, but we all was in support of the Grenada Revolution.
Yeah. I shall lift up I eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh I help. I help coming from the true and living eyes, Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, who created Zion and earth. He shall not suffer I foot to be moved. I hold, he that keepeth Ethiopia shall neither slumber nor sleep. Well, youths in the streets right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now, riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The youths them rise against brutality, man a kill another man for your salary. Them train them at the shooting gallery, black and loot, you might lose all your family. Them defend white supremacy, so them see the African as them enemy. It's been like this for centuries, them sick mentally. That's why we have you out in the streets right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. Them said them tired of the looting. I and I tired of them shooting. Ku Klux Klan they recruiting. Then them dress up in a blue suit and they're brutalizing our youths them. No court, they just execute them. Till the people start learn the truth and the black youth go strap on them Gideon boot and them out in the streets right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The Most High denounce their philosophy. Talk to United Nations properly. He said we will fight if necessary and be confident in the victory. They try to erase our history. They wanted to change our destiny. Cause we are the children of the Almighty, destined to lead the whole world to harmony. Them out in the streets right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. One bad police right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. No justice, no peace right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down. The fire now cease right now. Riots in your town now, Babylon them burning down.